Continue. Go.
We're going to be running it. A lot of activity down at the shot put. The Olympic decathlon champ just threw a great throw down there. See the athletes on the track getting ready for the women's 400-meter hurdles. Some real hot action here. I think this Grand Prix format is set up really nicely, and this is the kind of thing we need to do more of. It's tough to televise an entire meet when you're running it that way, but when you can do it in the Grand Prix format, run a few heats of this, a few heats of that, this is the kind of thing that's going to take us to the next level here. Proud to be here and have this meet in Atlanta.
Hey, so we're back here with Jake. Jake is, photographer extraordinaire. We talked about it. So, as a photographer, you're always looking for that perfect shot. How do you get that perfect shot?
Well, you got to study. Yeah, you got to study the sport. You got to be around the sport. Every athlete has tendencies, and you have to pick those tendencies up. And then you got to anticipate. A lot of that, capturing the moment, you just really got to stay in it and be committed to it, because the moment you pull away is the moment they do something really special that you will say, oh, I missed that shot. So I always just try to shoot until they, just kind of clear out the entire track.
How many pictures does that equate to?
Let's see. Recently I was at the Pin Relays. I think I shot probably 3,500 pictures a day. And, of course, I still have a video that's going on at the same time so that I can have a video feed for the online version of the magazine.
So you got a video feed. Now, how do you do video and stills? How does that happen?
Well, I mount a point and shoot on top of one camera, and then I put a remote camera on a base and just let it run. And hopefully, I capture something, really good, which at the Print Relays I did, especially with the USA versus the World, the finish on the 4x4 and the finish on the 4x1, I was able to get that. Of course, the distance medley relay worked out really well too. So sometimes things you just have to create on the fly. You just gotta try and experiment, and if you do it right, it'll come out right.
Okay, so it's just being there at the moment. You never know. But you got to be patient.
Yeah.
So, what kind of crazy positions do you have to get to be able to get that perfect shot? So, somebody coming from the heights of a pole vault, a 17-foot pole vault, or going over that hurdle barrier, what is it? Where do you have to be?
Well, for the pole vault, you just try different things. I like to experiment. I've laid on my back and shot up on the pole vault. I've stood at the end of the runway on both ends, to the side, put a remote almost directly under the bar, all kinds of things. I just, I've shot from my back on the corner at the curve as the distance runners come around, like if they run the 800 or 1500 or the 3000. I'll lay on my back and shoot up with a wide angle lens and really, try to make a grand shot. So I do whatever I can.
So you're always looking for that perfect shot. Now, what about the hurdles? How do you get that perfect shot? How do you get that determination and that grit as that lead leg goes over the barrier and they're snapping it down? You can just imagine how it looks, that perfect shot.
Well, see, with the hurdles, you always want to use a remote if possible, because with the remote, you can shoot up off the ground and shoot head on simultaneously. And you can get something that, you piece it all together, it looks real good. But, you just have to really, like I said, know the athletes. You know who's going to get a great start out of the blocks. And, like Aries Merritt and Jason Richardson, how those guys run. Terrence Trammell, some of those other guys, you know who's a power runner, finesse runner. You just watch them over time, and you just kind of pick it up.
Man, it's kind of like that coaching eye, man. You know, you're a photographer, but I guess you have the best eye out of the bunch because you can see those tendencies that many people don't see. Now, what's the best shot? You know, what is the best shot you've ever had? What's the best athlete, the best shot, the one that you said, this is the shot?
I think I reinvent every day, but I have a shot on the back cover of one of my issues where I was at the Conference USA indoors, and the pole vaulter went over, and he cleared it. Knowing he won, he turned in the air, pointed to his teammates in the bleachers, and was yeah, and gave that. That was phenomenal.
So that's the perfect shot.
That's one of them, yeah.
I mean, as a coach, I can walk away and said, job well done. You know what I mean? Tony, you've been there where you said you executed the game plan flawlessly. This is what we strive. I mean, when I sit back in my history and say, that's it.
Yeah, just not often enough. Yeah.
Not enough, but I can say that's it.
Yeah. Right.
It's done to perfection. Same thing with, a photographer. I guess there's always that shot that says, oh, this is the one. This is the one that goes in the Hall of Fame, my personal Hall of Fame. This separates, my skill set and how did I get here. And, you always want to know. And, through your photography or through your art, obviously it gives people a different perspective. What is the most, how, if you remember Derek Redmond in the Olympic Games when he pulled his hamstring,
right,
and you saw the photographers taking that shot. Out of all those shots, what is the shot that showed the greatest athletic determination? Do you have an idea there?
You really want to pick the image that defines the moment, the anguish, the intensity, just the commitment to what he was trying to do. So you might see that pain on his face, and you want to also look for the muscles, how they're flexed, how they're tensed. And I'm going to tell you, you may have saw 30 photographers clicking, but I guarantee you only one, maybe two, got that defining shot.
Wow.
Because it happens in an instant.
And how did they get to that instant?
You have to be ready. Sometimes because track meets are so long, you have a tendency to, fall off. And, concentration is lost sometimes. And you may be focusing on another athlete, and then you hear the crowd.
But Jake,
and then you pan over.
I'm sorry, Jake, I don't want to interrupt you, but looks like they're getting ready to start a race.
Oh, yeah, well, I got to get on that.
I see some intensity in some faces from here.
Well, Jake, great having you, man. I finally caught up, and, hey, man, I look forward to seeing more of your work. You'll be back. Yeah, exactly. We expect it.
Stuff, man. And be in Greensboro next weekend. So.
All right, so at the Division I Regional. So we got Winston Riley next on the show. Winston Riley. You're on the air.
As we line up here for these 400-meter hurdles, they're introducing the principals here.
In lane 1, from Liberia, 2012 African Championship.
Oh, no. So we've got a, I guess it's almost like the Masters, right? You get quiet for the for the start.
Yes, introducing Raising McIntosh in lane 1. Representing Lebanon. Fondor representing Canada. She'll be in 2. Sarah Wells is going to be in lane 3. The from the United States, the Olympic team member, finished third in the Olympic trials last year. Went to London, competed. Tierra Brown, ranked very high in the world this year. Ellen Wortham, being lane 5, she's also representing the U.S. Cassandra Tate from LSU. We got her coach right here with us. She's the reigning NCAA champion. Jasmine Chaney, who's been on the United States team. Jasmine Chaney in lane 7. Lane 8 from Jamaica, Nikisha Wilson. She graduated from LSU, represents Jamaica now. She was the runner-up at the Jamaican Championships last year, made it to the semifinals in London in lane 8, and this is a very good field.
So, Tony, we got this stacked field, and we've got Mr. Agent Extraordinaire, Winston Riley. Winston, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, and you?
Oh, man, we're wonderful, wonderful. So how many athletes do you have here?
I have 4. I have Cassandra Lloyd, 110 hurdler, Dee Dee Trotter, top athlete here, Olympic bronze medalist. She's running 200 tonight, and I have one here in the race, 400 hurdles, Cassandra Tate.
So now, Winston, after the start of this race, we're going to start talking about the state of the 400-meter hurdles. Obviously, you have a hurdler in the game. Man, and it looks like a clean start. So, Winston, what are you expecting from your hurdler here?
I think she's going to do well. She had a slow start this year. She's been working on her pace and her steps, and right now she's looking pretty good in the race. Got out pretty hard. Typically, she's a slow starter and finished strong, but I think she's been changing her strategy up here. So if things go well, we should see, looks like
it's a pretty tight race right now. Wilson out in lane 8 really got out. If she can hold on, she'll do well.
Race right now between Tate and
lane 7. That's Jasmine Chaney, I believe.
So wow, this is pretty good, man. I'm excited here. That
great race. They come down the home stretch, getting ready to hit the last hurdle.
Tiara Brown looks like
it's Tiara Brown who is expected to win here.
And Tate looked like she maybe got second. Maybe.
Incredible, man. Take a look at the crowd, man. For a meet that was done in a short window, man. This is great.
This is a very good crowd.
This is just automatic success. Now, Winston, we always talk to coaches. We always talk to athletes. We don't ever talk to athletes' representatives.
Right.
So, obviously, we have this idea and concept of Arliss Michaels, on HBO, or Show Me the Money.
Right.
But what is it? What does it take to be an athlete's representative? What do you go through? How do you recruit the athletes? How do you work for them? How do they work for you?
First you have to be passionate about the sport, for one. A lot of times people get involved in the sport chasing the money, but it's not really about the money. It's really about for the love of the sport. But to answer your question, start out, you have to first go to USA Track and Field and take your tests and get certified. And once you're certified with the USA Track and Field and IAAF, then you're considered a certified agent. Then once you have those credentials, you can go out and recruit. And basically recruitment starts from having relationships with the collegiate coaches. And you're developing the packet and telling the coaches who you are and what you have available, what type of services you can provide for the athletes. And then once you have that packet together, you have to get lucky, because a lot of the guys have been around for a while. They tend to have the name.
Right.
And they tend to get the bigger athletes that come out, because most athletes and most parents want the best for their kids, and that's normal. So you have to really establish yourself, and once you get that one athlete that's pretty good, you have to take really good care of them. And it's a lot of things behind the scenes that a lot of you guys don't see. In terms of negotiations, getting the athletes to races. You have to realize there's only 8 lanes.
Right. Exactly.
And you have a ton of athletes in each event that's looking to get in that race, and depending on relationships and how they're running and the previous years they've ran at that particular meet determines if those guys can get a lane or not.
So for you, for instance, here you got Winston, you're out there negotiating for athlete X or one of your athletes. What are the challenges of getting your athlete in one of those lanes? Not only just a lane, but one of the prime lanes that's gonna show get them the maximum coverage, because we know that in television it's about visibility.
Right.
And then what are those challenges like? So you're talking to Tony here, the meet director.
Right.
That is a Diamond League. And so Tony doesn't want to show you the money. How do you work with that and get him to show you the money?
You have to be very charismatic and plead your case. Those guys, it's almost like a courtroom, and he's the judge. And if you don't have your case together, chances are you're going to lose. With the athlete, and the athlete has to do their part as well. You just can't work miracles all the time. Those guys have to be in shape, ready to run, and when given the opportunity, they have to be able to perform. And the meet directors kind of feed off each other. So if you don't perform well at this meet and you're looking to get a lane the next meet, chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to get in.
So are you saying there's some type of collusion
absolutely.
with the meet director? So they're literally, if I don't like this guy or this girl, they're going to say, hey, listen, no.
Well, not necessarily if somebody don't like this person. Now, if you come to a meet and you're not behaving as a professional, then yes, you could run into that type of situation. But what I mean by performance-based, a lot of our sport is based on what have you done for me lately. And if you're not performing, and you have to realize you're putting on a show. As you can see now, we have the live band. You have the audience here watching the race, and they're looking for a show.
Exactly.
We are entertainers. And
that's what we got to have.
If you're not entertaining and pleading your case why you should be in there and why you should be getting paid X amount of dollars, chances are you're not going to get those things above.
Okay, so literally, how do you work that now? Because you've got the coach that has a vision. You have the athlete that has a vision. So how do you guys play in the sandbox together?
It's collectively you have to work with the coaches, and working with the coaches and figuring out where they're going to be ready to run. A lot of times the coaches say, I'm not ready for my athlete to run these particular races or at this level yet. But also at the same time, the coaches are aware that the athletes have to make money and do well. You have some of the best coaches in the world that will tell you, look, I want my kid to run at this time, this place. And that's the challenge. That's the difficult challenge that you have to deal with in trying to figure out what races are when the best time for the athlete to compete.
So is that a negotiation between you and the coach?
No, but the coaches tend to let you know when the athletes are ready to run, and they'll say, hey, my athlete's ready to go. This is what I want them to do. And different coaches work different ways. You just have to have the relationship with that coach and figure out their style of coaching and when their athlete's ready to run. Typically in college, the athletes are running race weekly, and they're running multiple races. So they tend to be more sharp when it's time to compete on a national meet. Whereas the professionals, as you can see, don't have a lot of races. If they're not running on that top tier level, then they have to find races on the B level to get those rounds in to be ready to run. So therefore, having those rounds or those races to get them ready for those races in terms of Diamond League is very crucial for those athletes to have these races. And working with the coaches, and that's the challenge. They want to know why my athletes are not in these Diamond League races. So you have to be able to juggle with the meet directors as well as the coaches and please them all, along with the athlete who you're working for.
Obviously. Now, when do you know that this athlete, it's time, they're there? I mean, how do you know that this is a special one? How it's, as a track coach, when I was in the collegiate system, we were recruiting the athletes. Some athletes, you knew that they were special. Right. It was different. It was going to happen. So what is it that you look for when you recruit the athletes in your agency?
I look for someone that's longevity. For one, I like to find a kid that's personable. Because if you can't find a kid, for one, that's personable and you can step outside the track, it's not going to do you good on the track unless he's just a raw, talented athlete, which everyone's going to go after. But me personally, I like to have someone that I can kind of groove with and we kind of work well together. This is a two-part system. If they're not working with you, you're not working with them, it's not going to work. The athletes tend to, they meet with several ages. And you got to look at the athlete's perspective. These guys come out of school in, June, and they have a 2-week window to meet 30 agents and to figure out in that time frame, relying on their coaches and their parents' vision on who they should go with. And they also speak with other athletes and get their experiences. But for me, you have to be a personal athlete and you have to be talented, just like a coach. Sort of the same way, you have to be able to find an athlete that knows it's going to be around for a while, to think that you can help, and that's willing to grow. And some sports, some events, it's just not a lot of money involved, and the athletes don't last. So you have to be very careful on who you decide you're going to work with and groom, if you will, and develop, because sometimes the money isn't there and they just kind of die in our sport.
So what are the trends you see now in athletics, in track and field? What are you seeing, the morphosis from when you started to now? What kind of trends are you seeing?
Right now, I think that the sponsors are having a hard time keeping the money where it used to be. So the athletes are working part-time or full-time trying to compete. And some of our top athletes that we're not given the chance to develop are falling out of the sport, which hurts us in the long run. And it's just 3 or 4 year lifespan. These guys are just saying, I don't have the funds to keep it up. And they're just stopping. So truly only the strong survive in our sport right now.
Now, what is it from, for instance, the youth perspective? Because, excuse me, it seems like our kids come through a program. They come through the Junior Olympics, and they come up. And it looks like we have the next 400-meter hurdle race. So who do we got here, Tony?
That's the start of 400-meter hurdles. We've got LeBron's Garrett, Phillips, Adams, Ruben McCoy, Joseph Robertson, Isaac Phillips, LaRon Bennett, and Terry Benson in this, and they're rolling. Got some pretty good times in here. A few athletes under 49. 48.05, the highest seed, the athlete from Jamaica, Isaac Phillips.
Man, what? Get a clock on Jake. Get a clock on Jake. You see Jake going across there?
Going to get that perfect shot, right?
Yeah, he's going to get that perfect shot. See, we just talked about that. Nobody ever. Hey, you think we can add in the photographer's race? You got to have at least 5 cameras strapped on, right?
These guys are rolling too.
Looks like LeBron Garrett's leading right now. It looks like Garrett and Isaac Phillips were 1 and 2.
No, okay. Now let's go back to some of the trends you're seeing now with intermediate hurdlers. Now, is that considered a high-tier sport in our sport? Is that a big paying sport? Like the 100 meters, obviously, and the 1,500 meters,
right,
that demands top dollars.
Correct. No, the 400-meter races, I mean, our sport really hasn't changed much. You look at the milers and the sprinters, the 1, 2, 4, and, and the hurdlers. And then you have your 5, 10K guys that are doing very well. But the 400 hurdle races, I mean, those guys do well. But in terms of a premier top dollar that you would get from a 100-meter sprinter, no, it's not.
So it isn't. Would it be medium?
It's medium. It's
okay.
medium, depending on what they're running. If they're running, I mean, any event, if they're running world-class times, then they're going to do it. They're going to have a pretty good living. But if you're just mediocre, then chances are you're going to kind of get lost in the shuffle.
So now, is rumor true? Are you now a Georgia resident?
I am not yet. We're still kind of going back and forth here between Knoxville. The wife, we're here renting right now, so I guess you can say yes, but not official.
So it's official then. We have just, I'm going to send this to Charles Oliver. We stole one, baby. We stole one. We got one here, So we're looking, obviously, your transition here or changing your base here. What do you think Atlanta offers or the metro area offers than Knoxville?
It's just a different pick. I mean, right now you look in terms of what I do. It doesn't really matter where you live in terms of travel. It's pretty much easier to travel out of here. So that's the one thing is save a plus on travel. Travel out of Knoxville is a very small airport, and it's very expensive to travel out of. Atlanta would definitely help on the expenses, but in terms of recruiting athletes, I don't think it really changes anything because you're still traveling out from meet to meet, SECs, regionals, NCs, and you still have to recruit and talk to different coaches across the country. So in terms of where you live, it really doesn't matter.
Okay, so you can live anywhere under a rock, I guess. But is it, for you in that recruiting process, I don't know if you bring them into where you are or you wine them and dine them. What is that recruiting process? What is that going out and getting that athlete? I mean, you talked about, you're talking to coaches, you're talking to the athlete, but what makes you different? Why do you stick out over any other agent?
And that's that's your selling point, because any agent can come up and say, hey, I'm a certified agent, come with me. And you have to find out. I don't want to give my secrets out over air, but now you have to. No, I'm just kidding.
Man, why is it that we don't want to share?
I think that you just have to find your niche and figure out what's your style. And I think every style of management is different for each athlete. Some athletes, I'm a very personable. I like to get to know my athletes and necessarily be friends with them. Not necessarily just all business, but be friends with them. But also at the same time as a professional relationship. A lot of agents like to be strictly business, and that's it. I hear a lot of different complaints. And you're going to get complaints from different athletes and different people. Everybody's different, and different athletes demand different things depending on what tier they are. But what makes each person different is you. You're selling yourself, not necessarily the agency, because you're behind the agency, and you makes the agency run. So if you're not selling yourself, then it doesn't matter what you have or what tentacles you have with the agency. So really, to boil down to it, it's about you.
So it's show me the money.
Basically.
It's show me the money. So
Absolutely.
Actually that agent really set the tone. Show me the money.
Yes, sir.
Because ultimately you're trying to show this agent or this athlete and their family and their support system how they can not only maintain, maximize their dollars. Now, I know it's always hard for athletes. It's almost being like that punch-drunk fighter.
Right.
When is it time to leave, and how's that conversation?
Oh, wow. And that's the really difficult part, depending on the good or the great athletes that are coming out. In our sport, when you're hot, and I don't want to say this, but it's time to go. Because next time, you may not have that shot. I've seen so many athletes, and I can give you 1 years back, Walter Dix was one of the athletes where at the time he was really hot, and he decided that he wanted to go back to school, and he, he pulled his hamstring, had a pretty serious injury at the end of the year, and almost killed his career. And he went from, being a $1 million athlete to, being an average pay athlete. But, praise God for him that he was able to bounce back, and he pulled it together and ran fast enough at time where he still, sustained a pretty substantial salary.
Yeah. I got to run in. I want to ask a quick question for a lot of our listening audience, and some of them may be mistaken, but you cannot sign an athlete until they are done with their college eligibility, or they're done with college and they're ready to go professional. We aren't signing any 14, 15, 10-year-olds, are we?
No, sir. In college, track and field is a little different than the other sports, like the football and basketball. With track and field, because it's still an amateur sport, the kids can actually leave early as a sophomore, a freshman, or a junior. But that's depending on the athlete, the parent, and them letting the university know that they're going to leave from school. Okay. Otherwise, it's illegal.
I just want to let Ian's listening audience know that the agents are not signing the 10-year-olds.
Guys, we talk about that, right, Tony? It's like, hey, you're not going to the Olympic Games if you are the world record holder at 10 years old. You're not going to the Olympics.
No, sir.
So Winston is not coming to your house, all right?
Interested.
So all parents or all parents of those 10-year-olds, you are not coming. He is not coming.
Go to school, get your education, because without the education, you can forget it.
Exactly.
You can forget it, because when you're done, it's only I would say less than 5% of our athletes they're going to live, work free, if you will, after track and field's over. Most of the athletes have to go out and get a job and use that Olympic experience or world championship on their resume to help them get employed. And that's just a fact. Only very few athletes that are, world class, like your Ashley Edens, or those guys that are going to do very well. Your Allison Felix, your Carmelita Jetters, those athletes are going to do very well when they're, during their career. When they're done, they don't have to work if they don't want.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right.
What was the toughest conversation when you had to do that?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
When you had to tell one of your athletes, how hard was that? I mean, what was that conversation like? I mean, did the athletes understand? Did they cry? I mean, that they had to leave. That sport.
No, it's done. It is tough, and that's a really hard conversation depending on what event they're in. Because as an athlete, me being an athlete myself, as being a competitor, you always think you can compete no matter what age you're in. It's just something you're going to just die with.
Right.
But saying, hey, this is it. This is your time. If you want to go out on top, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, the sport's going to push you out, and it's almost embarrassing. And it's shameful for the athlete, and they get very bitter, and they can't even come back and watch the sport. But to answer your question, it's time when you're not on top anymore.
Right.
When you're not on top anymore, you're not making teams anymore, it's time.
And that should determine it. But have you ever had that athlete that just couldn't accept it?
Yes.
And did they diminish their value?
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen from the meets, first of all. I mean, not even from the meets. You can start from your sponsor. And, at the end of the day, like I said before, our sport is based on what have you done for me lately. And that's just a fact. And if you're not performing, all these guys out here that are on contracts that you see competing here today, they're on it's contract, but it's performance-based. And if you're not performing at a certain level at the end of the year, you're getting reduced.
So they run for food.
Absolutely.
Now,
it's not easy. It's hard work. I mean, these guys work out 2 or 3 times a day. You guys see the glory side of the Olympic, championship races or the 4x1 races. You see the race, but you don't see the work prior to. These guys, some work. Some of the athletes, they work out 3 times a day. It's very difficult. Some of the guys are not making as much as others, and it's just a hard sport to survive in. You're not doing well. So the fact is, to answer your question, if you're not performing, the sport will push you out because you just can't afford to do the things you need to do, to travel and the supplements and getting the things you need to be a top-tier athlete.
So now, we have different tiers of athletes. We have the youth, and I got Ron Williams running. Ron, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
Great.
Now, Ron, you've been in the business for a long, long time, and you've had the opportunity to watch kids go from young aspiring athletes maybe couldn't walk and talk at the same time to athletes that, ascend into the Olympic realm. What is it, Winston, and maybe you can give us this advice, what is it that we can do as coaches to preserve that talent, not burn that talent up? Because we've all seen, youth athletes, they were the greatest 10-year-old. Now that we know it's official, that you can't go and recruit them, and that 16 and 17-year-old, that you're not going to the Olympic Games until you're at least 18, 19 years old.
Right.
What is it we can do?
I mean, I just think, I shouldn't say all coaches, but some coaches may, train differently and take the athletes to try to take it to another level. But at the same time, from a coach's perspective, you want your athletes to be the best, so you train them a certain way. But I think as a youth, I think we shouldn't push them as hard, in my opinion. Let them enjoy the sport. Because a lot of time we burn them out, and by the time they're 17, 18 years old, they don't want to run anymore. They're done. And I just think you should just, continue to do what you do, but keep it fun.
And, Winston got a good point there, because what I see happening now is you have teams that's running almost every weekend. USA Track and Field, AAU, you can't run every weekend.
Right.
I don't know how they do it, but that's what's happening. And, you're talking about 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and it's no way they can keep up and stay fit with running that much. That's impossible. But that's what's happened to a lot of our kids now.
Yeah, I think you have to let kids be kids and enjoy the sport and develop into.
Well,
looks like 400 here.
Looks like we have the 400 here. So
Mary Weinberg, Shannon Cox, Monica Hargrove, Mashami Robinson,
Mary Wittenberg, and Lanice
Atkins.
Clark. So it looks like, man, we've got a really great field here. I've seen a couple of these athletes on some Olympic teams.
Absolutely. Mushami's on the Olympic team. I think.
Right. Has Monica been on an Olympic team?
No, I think Mary Weinberg was on a world championship team, relay.
And Lanice Clark, I know that's the athlete that came out of Savannah State. That's Ted Whitaker's athlete, from Savannah State University. And she actually was on the Bahamian Olympic team last year. I saw her. We flew back. I actually sat next to her coming back from Penn Relays.
And Shannon Cox as well as Olympian from Great Britain.
Exactly. So it looks like, man, this...
That is Atkins, Joanna Atkins.
So Joanna Atkins, who actually, I'm proud to say this, she came through the Junior Olympic program here in Georgia.
Yep.
And I've talked to her coach a couple times this week. Actually, they're pretty proud of where she's, aspired to. And if this is correct, didn't you coach or work with her at Stevenson, Ron?
No, that was before my time.
But she came out of Stevenson High School. She was pretty much a blue chip. But what happened to her senior year?
She ran into some difficulties and some injuries that I remember. Because I remember watching her, I think her junior year, she was an NCAA champion out of lane 9 in Arkansas. I think she ran 50.52, if I remember correctly. And then the following year she got hurt, and I think she may be just coming back around. So hopefully.
One thing I can say about Joanna is my 3 years that I was coaching at Stevenson, she would always come back every year during her, her break, or she would come back every year and talk to the boys team, not the women's team. She would come back and talk to the boys team. And that's something for a young lady to do, to come back to her high school and always talk and give her encouragement.
Okay, well, Winston Riley had to go off and go tend to one of his athletes. He does what agents do, take care of his athletes, and it's always great. But sitting in the hot seat right now is Dominic Demerit, and he had a technical difficulty here, so we'll make sure that he holds the microphone tightly. Dominic, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Can't complain.
All right, what do you think, man? So what's up here?
No, man, I'm just enjoying the ambiance. Really good turnout for the first time, so I'm looking forward to having this as an annual event.
Well, I want to introduce you, to Ron Williams. Ron Williams is the coach's advisory chair for USA Track and Field Georgia. And if you notice, Dominic, you see him at some of the youth meets. And so how do you deal with elite athletes and youth athletes?
Well, I just enjoy track and field. I love being around athletes. So, it's pretty easy. It's, I always joke around and say dealing with youth athletes is kind of a vacation from working with my elite guys. So, it is what it is.
Now, you were an athlete at North Carolina. You ran professionally for a while, and now you are doing what? The agent, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I basically call myself an athlete liaison. Basically I work for a sports marketing company, mostly in recruiting and athlete management. So, that's what keeps me busy during the days.
So what does that consist of?
Just taking care of the logistical aspects of a professional athlete. Their travel, getting them into track meets, those kind of things, contract negotiations.
So you're engaged in recruiting him and handling the logistics. Does that require travel?
Yes, I travel so much, but most of my travel is during the summertime. So, I'm really flexible. That's why I get a great opportunity to work with young kids because I have so much time during the day.
Man, where do you find that free time? I can't find none.
Sometimes you have to invent it, but I have 2 kids and one on the way, so. I'm going to have to be excellent at time management now.
Congratulations. This is number 3?
Yes, sir.
So you're in it for real.
3 and done. 3's the charm.
You gotta have a relay team, man.
I'll borrow one from you.
All right. Hey, Dominic DeBear, thank you for stopping by and sharing a little knowledge with us, and we'll be watching you all summer long. We've got LeBron's. Hold it from the bottom. LeBron's, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm exceptional, man. How you feel after running that 400 hurdles, man? You took some time away.
Man, I had to take a little while off because I got hurt. I had a deep bone bruise last year. I ended off early part of the year. Second race at 50.6. Was feeling good and had a little injury setback at Drake Relays last year. So I've been battling, trying to get back. So this is my second race back. And I just wanted to come out and see where I was at. So I go back to the drawing board, train some more and get stronger.
Now, talk about how did you get started in track?
Well, I started back in high school.
Where's high school?
High school back in Texas. A little small high school outside in East Texas, Tatum High School.
Tatum High School? What
home
city?
of the Eagles, Tatum, Texas.
Tatum, Texas. All right.
Population, me and about 6 other people.
So is it true the water in Texas makes everybody fast or what?
Well, basically, how they say everything is bigger and better in Texas. So, I think it was probably just because I was raised in the country. We had to run everywhere, man. When closest transportation, closest store was about like 2 to 3 miles away. So, if you wanted to go to the store in the summertime, you had to run and go get it. We didn't have a car, so had to get it in.
So what brought you to Georgia?
Well, I went to school at University of Georgia. I'm a Bulldog. Graduated from there in 2002 and started my professional career in 2003, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Now, when you were in high school, did you run summer track?
I never ran summer track. I always used the other sports, man. To tell you the truth, I really didn't like track. I started off with football, basketball, and baseball, and I actually came into track, man, when I was a late bloomer. When I was a sophomore in high school, after football practice one day, I was out there playing around, horsing around in the hurdles and stuff, and the coach came yelling at me across the track. I was like, oh, Lord, the track coach is about to get me. But then he came up and saw me jumping over the hurdles, and he was like, come here, I need you to do that again. So I just kept jumping over the hurdles, and he said I was a natural. So that's when I started.
So what sport did you play?
Football, basketball, and baseball, all 3. I was a letter in all 3 in high school, All-American. Could have went to school, to college in either one of those sports. So
now, talk to me about the process of jumping over 5 or 6 states to come to UGA.
Well, I went to JUCO first.
Okay, and where was that?
JUCO guy, Garden City, man. Garden City Community College.
Garden City, okay.
And I was back there, man, when the Gunners were back there. Went to school with Derek Brew and Floyd Thompson, all those guys, man. So I was back there. I'm an old school guy, so I was back there with the vets, man. Still, man, I'm just blessed that I'm still able to get out here and run with these guys, at a competitive level. So I went to school there at Garden City Community College, and after that, sophomore in college. After I graduated from there, I came on out to Georgia, man. Fell in love with it.
And now you're here. So what do you see in? Now you've been running for a while. You've been on the circuit. What do you see different with the athletes we have now versus the athletes we had, when you first got into the infancy?
Well, as far as like with these younger guys, man, it's just like, like the kid from Grenada. They just do it like so effortlessly. You know what I'm saying? It's like nothing to them. Like, they can get out there and, just go out and do it. And it just seems like they just out there kind of like just running and not really knowing like fully what to do with everything. So it's kind of almost scary to a certain extent that, they're not even really running all out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, actually, Ron, you saw him as a junior, didn't
he? Yeah, at the 2009 World Youth Championships over in Italy. He won that 400 that year.
I mean, he just makes it look so easy, man.
Now, when you got in the sport, who are your heroes? Who are the big dogs when you were rolling in there?
They're still, tell you the truth, they're still running, man. I mean, the guys that always did it for me, I mean, and they're in my event. I mean, I don't think we have, like, in the 400 hurdles, it's not that rivalry, like, with the sprints. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but who are the big dogs when you were there? Who are the one you say, I got to get him, I got to get him, I got to get him?
Derek Atkins, man. Derek, man. I had my eyes, man. I had him and Joey Woody in my crosshairs, man. And when I was able to get him, I kind of like, I think when the first time I beat Joey Woody, I went home, man, and I just like smiled like all night long, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, man, I beat Joey Woody today. I've arrived, you know what I'm saying? And so him and Derek, that just did it for me.
So was that Georgia Tech-Georgia rival? You had to beat Derek Atkins?
It's just one of them things, man. Him and like, unfortunately, man, I still got one on that Georgia Tech list that I've not been able to get. And that's Mr. Angelo Taylor, man. So I haven't gotten him yet. That's going to be hard to do, man. But one day I might catch him tired or something like that. I'm going to try to see if I can get him to hang out with me the night before or something, see if I can catch him slipping.
Put a little liquor in his drink and make him a little sleepy, right?
Yeah, man, a little something.
So now, growing up in the sport, obviously, once you figured out that you liked the sport in the junior college level, who were the big guns then?
Well, in junior college, man, that's when we were like watching the Maurice Greens and all of those guys. So, I mean, coming up like watching those guys like with the sprints and so those were the big guns right there, the Michael Johnsons, So even like in the other, it was just like those were the gunners, man. Michael Johnson and Maurice Green and all of those guys, those were it.
So, what did you take from them? That's
man,
the
I used
question.
to try to like mimic like Michael Johnson's stride pattern. Like I just figure if I can get that stride, man, and try to put that in place in the 400 hurdles, man, I'll be doing something. But it never did happen like that. So I mean, it was just a joy to even watch him and Kevin Young and like all of those guys, man, to just do their thing, man. I remember just watching Kevin Young. I used to like play his world record tape over and over and over again. I was just like wow, it's just amazing.
Think about this. Now, when you left Georgia, you were there. Obviously, Coach Norton was there, right? Or was Coach Mitchell there?
Well, Coach Mitchell was there and Coach Elliott was there. So
right.
I was there when they were there, and then when they passed along, that's when Coach Norton and Coach John Stewart came into play. But Babbitt, he's been there for a while, too.
So you came in right at that transition. Mm-hmm. So you got a chance to see Coach Mitchell. Mm-hmm. You didn't really work with Coach Gainey, obviously,
no,
who's
I didn't
a
get
long
a chance
term.
to work with him. But I tell you, Coach Mitchell, man, truth be told, he was the reason that I actually went to Georgia. Like, I've never, had a coach, man, to kind of come in and kind of, embrace me. He was just, kind of, kept it real, so to speak. And, he just let me know, man, look, I'm not trying to buy you or anything like that. I'm just trying to let you know if you come here, I can help you get to the next level. And I mean, fortunate, man, that happened.
So Coach Mitchell was pretty interesting. Do you keep up with Coach Mitchell?
Oh, man, we do. We just had a track and field reunion back. I got a chance to see Coach Mitchell. He's out in Arizona now, so I got a chance to talk with him. So I still keep in touch with him, Coach Elliott as well, too. I eat breakfast with Coach Elliott sometime at his house, man. That guy makes some of the best pancakes in the world. I'm trying to tell you, man. I told him I would actually move in if he can make me those pancakes every morning. Man. Coach Elliott, that guy's a good guy. And he's a good cook too.
So I was looking at your Facebook page. So what's changed with you? I see there's some impending change with you.
Yeah, man, I'm getting a little older now, man, and so I got a new leading lady in my life, man. Besides my nice little young daughter, Kayla Garrett. Hello to her. She just had her 8th birthday on this past Friday, on the 10th. I love her so much, and I got a new lady. I'm engaged now, So it's going real well, man, and it's a whole different ball game. Like when you kind of get happy and have that good person, by your side, and just have somebody that can kind of like be that positive influence to you and things like that. And I think that's been key to my recovery coming back from my injury.
And you were how long on the rack?
Man, I was like, I was down for about ever since like last year, man. Like March of last year at the Drake Relays, man, I was down, and it's been an ongoing process to try to get stronger ever since, because it's my trail leg. And I had to keep, doing rehab in order to get back where it is. And I'm almost at 100%. So a couple of more races, I think I'll be okay.
Well, we got the coach's advisory chair. What advice, what can we do to fix that trail leg, Coach?